You're bad a lot.
Got 2 brain cells this evening. And 3 whiskies.
Jake's typing, so I assume something's happening. You didn't yourselves off.
Andy, you didn't take us off. We've been live for 30 seconds. Okay. Who put Andy in charge? Right. Let's start again. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We promise we haven't started as we mean to go on.
Okay.
Are you okay?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this really professional edition of Pour and Sip. I have once again messed up the intro with the special holding screen that we have. But anyway, welcome everybody to another Thursday Pour and Sip extravaganza. How are you, Jess? It's been a hot minute.
It has. It feels like it's been ages.
Yes.
I'm buzzing to be back. Yeah, really looking forward to tonight. I'm sure everyone's spotted it's one hell of a lineup. How are you?
Very well, very hot, like really sticky here and muggy. I'm just sitting here kind of with a little sweat on me as well. Get the fan out.
Actually, they're quite good.
Yeah. But yeah, buzzing about tonight's lineup. I have to say, they just all look good really tonight. I'm actually excited about all of them. Lots of comments coming in already, which is really nice to see.
Because we've been live for so long.
Yeah. Steve Carl Williams, good evening. Welcome, Steve. Malcolm Tucker, evening all. Hope everyone is well. Looking forward to tonight's drams. I am. Wild-Eyed Bill, good evening. Looking forward to rounding off my birthday with a good few drams. Happy birthday, Wild-Eyed Bill. I hope you got some nice whiskey in the post. Maybe one of these tonight might tickle your fancy for a little birthday present. Mike Pizarro, evening, welcome back. Mike Chris Turner, good evening, welcome back. So welcome back everybody and our regulars. If you are new to Pour and Sip, welcome again, even more so. This is our tasting for this month's box, and I am Andy, your co-host, with Jess here on my right, might be on my right, maybe stage left, I don't know. And we're both your co-hosts presenting tonight. And we've got some amazing drams to try tonight. And the first thing I would say is if you are new, please get involved in the chat. Please let us know what you're thinking about the tasting notes. Let us know if you've got any questions for our guests. We've got some awesome guests lined up tonight. And Jess will probably tell us the order of proceedings for tonight, what we're going to be trying.
Right. So we are kicking off with our SPEY whiskey. And we've got Andrew Ferguson, their commercial manager, talking us through that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're taking on Strathearn with brand ambassador Dougal, who a few months ago, I believe, was just on Pour and Sip. Not sure how many months, they do fly by. So some of you might recognize him. And then we're rounding off the evening with a very special Springbank 10-year-old with brand ambassador Melanie. So yeah, stay tuned, guys.
And it's worth saying about this Springbank that it's...
Oh, I'm so sorry that you're taking the lead there.
Yeah. It's going really well tonight, everybody. But straight away after tonight's live episode of Pour and Sip, that Springbank 10 will be up for all you members, and it's limited to one each. So, guys, be super quick if you want to get one of those. They will go very quickly, as that stuff tends to. Anyway, lastly, we'll be having 2 quick drams of the other 2. Remember, you don't need to drink everything tonight, so you can watch this back at your leisure and have the other 2 as you please. But we'll be trying the Stauning, the Host, and then the Old Perth. I think it's a Manzanilla cask. That is the one, the limited edition, which is lovely stuff. So I think without further ado, that's about all of our notes for tonight's event. Let's
let the experts do the talking now.
Let's let the experts do the talking, because that's enough of us tonight. Okay, so I'm just going to invite on. This is going really well. Can't even find the here it is. They've changed the layout on Restream. That's an excuse. Okay, please welcome Andrew to the stage. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going great. Yes. Just joined the stream, as you know, just in the nick of time. So yeah, I already poured my first whiskey. So yes, this is it's great.
Yeah, there you go. Well, welcome. Have we spoken to you before? Have you been on Pour and Sip before?
I have not done this before. No, I've done similar projects, but not with yourselves. No, and this is very, very nice background. I'm liking the layout here. It's looking very.
Yeah, I designed it myself. Anyway, welcome. So, as you're new, just tell us a little bit about yourself, anyone who doesn't know about you, and how you got into your role as commercial manager for...
So I started off in whiskey, basically. My grandparents were from Islay, so it was family holidays every summer over to Islay, and for the first sort of 25 years of your life, or maybe 30 years, you're just going, what is that smelly stuff, that horrible drink I was drinking? And then around the late 20s, sort of early 30s, you start going, there's people from all over the world coming to Islay for this liquid.
Yeah.
And you learn more about it, and you realise this is quite a special place. You think, wow, they not only come to Scotland, they come to Islay for this particular style of whiskey. So that kind of got my interest for potentially making it a career rather than just like something on the sort of the holiday home island.
Yeah.
And then I started doing whiskey tastings at places like One Devonshire. So I went to the deep end. So I thought I seen sort of the old style of promoting whiskey, where it was always I was like probably an old grey-haired man telling you how to enjoy whiskey. It was like kind of lots of rules and regulations. It's quite straight. So I thought, surely we can do better than that. So this is my attempt at that better style. So I try to be more relaxed. I feel as though whiskey is a thing to be enjoyed by everyone. And yes, there's lots of technical aspects to whiskey, but I think the first thing you got to do is enjoy it. So that's how I kind of got into whiskey. And then I've moved on from One Devonshire. What did I do? I went to a whiskey shop in Glasgow. So a very famous whiskey shop in Buchanan Galleries in Glasgow. I worked there for many years. And I kind of learned the retail aspect of whiskey and how people buy bottles, not just on the maybe the brand name, but also on how it looks on the shelf and how it's displayed. So a lot of things about retail. And then I got an internal promotion into be the brand ambassador for Lochfine Whiskies, which is based out of Inverary, and they had their own brand of blends, gins, single cask whiskies. So that's where I went on the road. And it was UK only, but I did some festivals, some events, and a lot of shop visits. That was kind of the barrel top things, the tastings. Then COVID happened. So whiskey shop was quite a big business at that time, so they had lots of different aspects. So I ended up doing a bit of the auction run, amongst other things, like just go down to London or via many cities on the way down, going around London for a day, picking up all the bottles for the auctions and taking them back. But about a year of that, and I thought, no, I prefer the front-facing, seeing the customers, talk about whiskey. So I then moved on to SPEY. So I've been with SPEY almost 3 years now, and it's been absolutely fantastic. So it's quite an unknown brand in the UK. We're really big in Asia. We're quite big in Europe, but in the UK we weren't that well known. So in the last sort of 18 months, we've tried to really pitch ourselves into the UK market, and it's been great fun. So working with yourselves quite a lot. Also the Old Holland Whiskey Shop as well. All the festivals up and down the country, from Dornoch up in the north of Scotland. How far south do we go? Not too far south, actually. I think we'll go to about Southport, and I think that's about the furthest we've been, actually. We've not really sort of cracked London yet, so we're planning to go to London, do some festivals down south with SPEY. But yes, these online things are great because people can join in from all over the country, so it's fantastic. The wee pack you send out is superb. So yeah, looking forward to tonight.
Okay, great, lovely stuff. I think it's interesting what you said about, like, you know, whiskey being like that thing where you had the old man with these strict rules of what whiskey is. It's changed so much. Like,
that's 50 years ago, and I still say, I mean, I won't name any brands, but there were some brands who literally that was the signing policy for the brand ambassadors. Was like, are you 65 or over? What colour is your hair? But yeah, it's all changed now, and it's fantastic. I mean, it's honestly what an industry we work in.
But I think it's also important. Like, it's when you're getting into it and stuff, and you're joining, you know, subscription services like this. Like, it's easy to get lost in all the, you know, the really technical aspects of whiskey, but and you know, mad tasting notes and all of this stuff. But you said it yourself really well. It's just like the real main aspect of it is, do you enjoy it? Was that nice? Was that whiskey that you enjoyed? And that's something we can all kind of, like, you know, chat about. It's much easier to. But anyway,
and as you say, on information, you can delve as deep as you want with whiskey. There's absolutely, you can spend hours talk about the details. But yeah, you can go as light as you want or as heavy as you want into whiskey. That's what makes it such a great thing. And also, you can even maybe we shouldn't say this, but you can actually enjoy whiskey without even drinking that much of it. So it's like it's a great community just if you're having a small amount, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you're here representing SPEY tonight. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about it? It's kind of got this reputation of being small, picturesque, craft focused. Talk to us a little bit about the distillery.
Yeah, so I'll take this twofold. So I'll talk about the distillery and I'll talk about the brands because they were separate initially. So the distillery, it was the Christie family finally finished converting an old mill into a distillery in 1990. So I think it was like a good 20, 25 years. It was getting built very slowly. It was kind of a passion project. 1990, it was finally built, started distilling in December 1990, and it distilled right the way through to, with the Christie family, through to 2012. So I'll leave that there, and I'll jump to SPEY. So SPEY started as a bottler blender in Taiwan, and I think it was 96, 97. And that was an English chap and a Taiwanese chap who joined together to make a company. They worked with big brands over there and decided to make their own brand. So the first, I think one of the first products made was the SPEY Chairman's Choice, which we're trying the newest version tonight. So they built that brand, the SPEY brand, until 2012, when the company that owns SPEY, which is Harvey's of Edinburgh, bought Speyside Distillery in 2012. And from 2012 until 2025, Harvey's of Edinburgh has owned Speyside Distillery. Speyside Distillery stopped production on 5th of November 2024. We decommissioned it the next 5-6 months, and officially on the 1st of May 2025, Speyside Distillery is now a lost distillery. SPEY, though, is going to continue. So SPEY started before Speyside Distillery, and it's going to continue after. So we have plans to build a new distillery about 10 miles away. So SPEY, the brand, will continue. So if you don't want to delve too deep, you won't notice a difference on the surface. It'll just still be SPEY from Speyside Distillery. But yes, essentially, the first lost distillery in 25 years, I believe, in Scotland, or 23 or 25 years in Scotland, and that's Speyside Distillery. And that's officially by the SWA, Scottish Whisky Association. So yes, that was a short version of SPEY and Speyside Distillery. People say, what is SPEY, what's Speyside? So there is my practice version of it, making it short and sweet. So hopefully that.
Okay. The actual distillery itself is known for kind of like a light, elegant spirit, I suppose.
Yeah.
And what is that kind of a deliberate part of the distilling with the distillery, or the equipment that's there, or was it just
two styles? So the style before 2012, it was probably more of a classic Speyside style, classic fermentation times, classic distilling times. From 2012, we have changed it to a longer fermentation and a slower distillation. So what you get with that is a kind of we think it's a more floral, fruity, and lighter spirit. So lots of flavour packed into it, but it's also very delicate. So I always say with SPEY, one of the things you notice is it's very soft lips, I call it. I don't know if that's trademark or not, but yeah, basically there's no sting on the lips. It's very soft on the lips, and then you get lots of flavour in the palate, and then you get a nice sort of finish. So this is obviously more of a classic Speyside region style, this one. We do all sorts of whiskies at SPEY. We do peated whiskies, we do port finish, bourbon casks, all sorts. But yeah, this is our classic bourbon sherry mix. So this is like our nod to the kind of classic styles of Speyside.
When you were talking about like when they decided after the, was it 2012 you were saying, when they kind of changed the style and the house style, was that kind of like to stand out from like classic Speyside whiskies like you were talking, or was it for
I'm sure I wasn't there at the time, but I'm sure it was to do with Dr. Jim Swan, who was added as
a part to do with it.
But he's got his fingerprints in a lot of distilleries around the world. But I believe it was him that kind of laid the groundwork for those kind of that style. I think it was also a good portion of, we'll come on to it, but we've got 40% whiskies around the world, but also 46 minimum whiskies that go to Europe. So he was a big part of the 46 non-chill filtered whiskies, which we use for the sort of European sales. But yes, I think there was a lot of his influence, but also get John and Hung, who were the owners. They've been in whiskey for 20 odd years. So as far as I know, it was a bit of a group effort to make less whiskey, but high quality whiskey. So the quality of Speyside Distillery from 2012 was really exceptional. The quality before was very good as well, but we inherited those casks, so it's more of you have this product, you have to change the cask it's in or whatever. But the ones from 2012, we created it from start to finish. So yeah.
Do you think there's anything in the house styles made, like you said, you find it's more popular in, you're saying, in Asia and in Europe than it just hasn't got there yet?
Asia, I think we lean towards. We do stronger ones in Asia, but yeah, we definitely do a 40% style for the globe, but with Asia in mind. But it's superbly popular in Europe as well. The Chairman's Choice PX and the 12-year-old, they're both 40%, do really well.
Cool.
But yeah, 46 is more for the. We like, for such a small distillery, we offered lots of different styles and we tried to be kind of nimble. So different flavours, different styles, chill filtered, non-chill filtered. So we feel as though we can find something for everyone, but we know that everything we do is not for everyone. So
do you know what the output is of the, like, it's pretty low, isn't it, of how much?
No, near the end we're running at 20. Well, I think the last couple of years we're at 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. I think we're at about 700,000 litres of alcohol. Okay. I think if you went 24/7, you could run about 1 million. Okay. So I would say we're one of the big small guys, or one of the small medium guys. Kind of that kind of level. So,
that kind of. Right. Well, talk to us about this. Firstly, what is? It sounds quite personal. What does the Chairman's Choice represent?
So Chairman's Choice. The story goes back in the 1800s. So John Harvey McDonough, who's one of our owners, the Harvey family goes back to the 1800s, involved in building Bruichladdich distillery, etc. But yeah, around that time, the chairman of the board would select a cask at Christmas time for friends and family. And it was always meant to be like an easy drinking one, so people who drink whiskey enjoyed it, but also non-whiskey drinkers can appreciate it. So that's where the Chairman's Choice was born. That was also the first release, I think, back in the 90s. It was a Chairman's Choice. It was using other people's whiskey, but they created a kind of SPEY Chairman's Choice at that time. And this is the latest reincarnation. So it's the first reincarnation for many years, and we've changed it from Chairman's Choice to Chairman's Choice. So instead of a mixture of sherry finishes, this is a Pedro Jimenez sherry finish. So a wee bit sweeter, a wee bit spicy. But yeah.
So it was finished in Pedro Jimenez casks for like a period, like, do you know how long?
Well, actually, roughly about 90% of this is just straight bourbon. Another 10% is bourbon with a long hang, maybe 5-6 years in PX. So this is just a touch of sherry. Okay. We have other products you guys stock. For example, the 14-year-old Spirit Speyside special bottling is like more of a sherry bomb. That's 100% bourbon and PX finish 100%. Well, this is just a touch of sherry. This is our whenever you walk into any sort of website or shop, Chairman's Choice PX should hopefully be the most best priced whiskey from SPEY. So it's our introduction to the world, basically. If your first SPEY is a Chairman's Choice, we're happy because this is essentially our whiskey in a nutshell. But yes, bourbon cask with a sherry finish, that kind of lovely sweet flavour, easy drinking on the lips. You get the vanillas and the honeys from the bourbon, and then you get that lovely spicy, fruity flavour from the sherry. It's just an easy drinker. And yeah, generally we, in our tastings, our own, we're doing five or six SPEYs. Chairman's Choice is usually number one on the tasting. So yes, quite happy that it's going first here.
Well, it nearly wasn't going first because we were panicking and we thought we were going to have Springbank before this.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I was sitting here. I just didn't log in. I was sitting here for ages.
Don't worry about it.
I didn't even realise to come on early. But yeah, so yeah. Well, this is one I'd say should be a good opening dram, and it's just lovely flavours. And it gets you in the mood. This could be your favourite SPEY, but also we've got lots of other ones we've got as well. But yeah, this is one that's been released February 2025, so it's a brand new release.
Jess, do you want to just say what our guests are thinking? What everyone in the community is thinking about this one?
There's a lot.
There's a lot. Okay, there you go. While I have a little nose of this.
Yeah, I mean it's warm outside, but it's Christmas in the glass apparently. Yeah. We've got Malcolm Tucker saying the nose is really fruity with juicy pears and woodland fruit jam. Mike Bizzaro, the nose is Christmas, sherry and pine leaves. Graham Scott, the nose is taking me back to McCowan's Highland Toffee bars. Might just be me. Never had one, but if anyone else agrees, let us know. Peter Gilmore, sweet pears to the nose. Real Boinger, I get a lot of caramel. The palate gives me a bit of spice and fruitiness, like forest fruits and berries, and the caramel goes on. Mike Bizzaro also getting tin pears.
Yeah.
Tin pears, yeah, that's good. Good show.
Yeah, Cristana, pears and fruit jam on the nose, caramel on the palate, and a less sweet finish than expected. Peter Gilmore with marmalade and a hint of treacle and dark chocolate with a floral finish. And Alex Battersby, quite subtle on the nose, but seems quite sweet. May work as a diet old-fashioned without the sugar.
I wonder what diet old-fashioned was.
Yeah, for a minute I thought it was like a diet Coke like a smoky.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know where I was going with that, but I'm glad it's not. Steve Colin Williams, very mellow sweetness, rhubarb custard sweets with subtle hint of cracked pepper spice. And then Mike Pizarro says it tastes exactly as you expect from the nose with sweet pears, a very nice kind of dessert drink. Good with the digestive, I would imagine. I would imagine also.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just on for me, like just trying that, it's kind of exactly as you're saying, Andrew. This is just like a classic opener. It's just wonderful. It's just all that like the plums, the dark blackberry kind of vibe for me, and obviously that Christmas cake note that's there as well. But it just drinks really nicely.
It's not going to put MD off whiskey. It's not going to be like a really strong peaty one or a really sort of done with the cheaper whiskies. It's just a whiskey. I think is as long as people like alcohol and whiskey, they're going to enjoy. I don't think you can not enjoy this. It's just very sippable, very moreish.
People would not enjoy it. They've made their mind up on whiskey and they're not turning. But I think as well, like, because I've not tried that much of SPEY and like the kind of general, like you were saying, the florally kind of distillery character, but considering with the PX, usually it can add this kind of dryness or something and can kind of overpower that distillery character. I don't think it is in here. It's not some huge, massive show that's gone and punched everything else in the face and just, gone, I'm taking this one now. So I think it's really...
One slightly bigger punch. The whiskey I mentioned already, the Spirit Speyside 2025 bottling, that is a bit more of a punch, but still, it's like getting punched in the face with a velvet glove, that one. So it's still very soft. And it's a bit more, if you like that proper sherry bomb, the Spirit Speyside one is a sherry bomb. This is just a touch of sherry. I think it's a very well balanced whiskey, just easy drinking. It does what it's meant to do. It's just introduce people to SPEY. And don't be wrong, people will love this one and keep on being like a regular in their cabinet, but it's also just like, this is our kind of introduction. So hope you enjoy it. Yeah,
absolutely. What are you thinking, Jess, about this one?
Yeah, I love it. I think I kind of agree. Like for me, I get more of kind of like that, like dry, like dusty cocoa, and like I think Mike Pizarro just said like the caramel is more like a burnt caramel. Like it's not like super sweet. Like I think when you see PX sometimes, like obviously depending on how much is used, like it can be like almost like a really rich, like syrupy dram. But actually, this is like a lovely little sprinkling of that PX influence. So it makes it like much more easy to drink. Like I think everyone's coming through with all these festive notes, but actually like it doesn't feel out of place on an evening like tonight where it's pretty warm.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, one thing we don't do at SPEY, we're never in the world of extremes. So you never get us doing like a really extreme sherry or a really extreme whatever. We are always trying to be in that sort of centre point. We want a nice drinking whiskey. So balance is always a big key to our whiskey. So if you're looking for extremes, we are not extreme. We're just, I would say, very central, high quality with different flavours. But we're always very accessible.
I'm here for it. And so if someone likes this one, what's the next one in the SPEY range you'd recommend them?
Well, I would say there's four categories you can put SPEY into. Bourbon with a sherry finish, which is this one. And also there's other ones there. Bourbon with a port finish, which is the Tawny range, if you know that, or the Tenney range. Tawny port with Tenney is the name. The other one is the bourbon range, which is straight bourbon. So it's very much the distillery DNA, the character, with nothing else or least added. So that's bourbon. And then the fourth style is peated, which is quite unusual for a Speyside distillery. So we do a peated style. So sherry, port, bourbon, and peat are four main styles. So pretty much every SPEY you can find will come from one of those four families. And then there's a Trilogia, which you might have, I think it's on your site as well. Trilogia is a mixture of three. It's a bourbon, port, and peat mixed together.
Wow.
So that's quite a cool one. Yeah, it's a very cool one. Won big awards as well. So that's the first time we started really sort of really putting the three together. But yes, four main strands, and this is the sherry strand, I'd say.
Yeah, and is there anything exciting coming up in the future for SPEY?
Oh, there's lots coming up. What have we got coming up? We're dabbling in some custom-made French virgin oak casks, which are super cool. So we have literally every detail about the wood. We've been doing lots of wee sample jars with the wood in it. There's about 50 jars. We've gone through them all. So we've got this custom built cask, French virgin oak, and that's going to be a bourbon initially with that as a finish, and that's coming out, and I think it's coming out this year, definitely this year. I'm not too sure exactly when it's coming out.
How did that come about? Was that through like a connection, or was it something that
How did it come about again? Yeah, I think just some friends of the company introduced us to these guys in France, and the guys in France really went out of their way to send us like lots of bottles with wee bits of wood in there, but they didn't tell us what they were. So our job was to put in new make, bourbon matured and peated whiskey. So we had 3 of our kind of whiskies in it, left it for I think it was 4 or 5 weeks, and then we literally tried every single one of them. And it came down to one cask. We thought there's a few casks, but this one cask we selected was the best, and it was the best with the bourbon, initially bourbon, so the Tritina style, the bourbon cask. From there, put it into a finish in this French virgin oak, and it was unbelievable. Yeah, so quite excited about that. Also a bit strong. I think it's going to be at the 50% mark. I'm not too sure exact ABV, but strong.
And that would be one of the only ones that's bottled near that kind of percentage.
No, we do cask strength as well. There's cask strength in your second.
Yeah, there you
go. We cask strength Tritina, cask strength bourbon, cask strength peated. So yeah, if you want super strong, we've got that as well. But still a super balanced cask strength. It's like the thing about the SPEY cask strengths are actually they're really competitive in the market because they're again that soft lips. They're really kind of light at the start, and then that's when they start hitting you in the mouth and the chest later on. But cask strength Famari is something to try because it's so unusual for such a light and floral style to make a cask strength peated whiskey. Yeah, so the Famari cask strength is definitely something you would not expect coming from the same distillery that makes the Chairman's Choice. So yeah, we've got lots of. Honestly, I hope the people are watching go and investigate a few of the drams we do because we do a wide range. We're such a small distillery.
If someone's into trying stuff from one distillery, you're going to cover all bases here for everybody's palate with this.
Yeah, I think that's what we can do. The only style I think we can't really do is the salty style, like Campbelltown style, like Springbank style. I think we can pretty have a good bash at everything else, but we can't recreate the saltiness because we are one of the most inland distilleries. We are 5 miles from the centre point of Scotland, so it's very hard to recreate that coastal style when you're nowhere near the coast. Yeah. Yes, the coastal style is the one we don't really have, but everything else I think we can have a good bash at trying it.
Okay, well, Andrew, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. It's been a wonderful start to the evening. I've got to say, it was a great opener, that one. Yeah. So thank you very much. If you want to stick around to the end, we've got more stuff coming on. So
I'm going to stick around, try them all. But I'm just saying, see the comments. How do you see the comments? Because I'm just getting.
You can't see the comments because. But if you log on to YouTube, you'll see everyone's chatting away. But because we get the comments through Slack. We just don't want any kind of untoward comments coming straight to
I love a bit of come on.
Will this guy ever shut up? And then it's just like,
hate it. Perfect. Come on, let's go.
All right. Thank you very much, mate.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
We'll see you on the flip side.
Perfect.
Thank you. I sometimes forget that I'm not talking to my friends here. And I say things like, I'll see you on the flip side. Things to say in this experiment. Right. Anyway, that was a great start to the evening. I have to say, I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, flying out the box. Anyway. I think of like what horses run out of. Anyway.
What is the saying? Flying up of the.
There is a saying.
There is a saying. No, you're right. I don't know it either, but
it's showing I've never been to a horse race, which I'm not.
Well, there you go, everybody. Can you let us know what Jess had intended to say?
Well, that's enough from me. Let's bring on our next expert.
Okay, cool. Now we're heading to talk all things Strathearn with Dougal.
Yes, welcome back.
Hey guys.
It feels like it hasn't been very long at all.
out the blocks potentially. Is that right?
Dates, schools, it's all coming through now. But there's going to be more, I'm sure. Who is going to declare their underlying love for Andy first? Then everybody. Just so he has to read it out. Well, you could make me read anything out if you.
I'd be okay with that, to be honest.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, that's a good test. You can probably get me to say anything because I'll just look and then read it and then. But anyway, come carry on.
Right. So, Dougal, I know you were here not very long ago, but for those of you who, us and the pouring sippers who don't know you, give us a little intro into who you are and why you love whiskey.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a tough one. I definitely love whiskey. That's a good start. So, yes, I'm the global ambassador for Douglas Ling, which is kind of why you guys have seen me a few different hats, I guess, because in terms of a Scotch whiskey producer, we do a lot of different things. So a lot of people might know us for things like Big Pete, Scallywag, or a series of regional malts. A lot of people might know us in terms of our single cask world, so Old Particular and XOP range, kind of the world of single casks. And then tonight I'm here talking about our own little craft, very small distillery, Strathearn. We also have a gin as well, our T-Smith gin that we produce at the distillery as well. So we have a lot of different things that I get to talk about, but officially I spend far more time not in Scotland than in Scotland, and a lot more time on the road. In fact, your following guest, Melanie, we have never met in Scotland. We actually just met in Poland over the weekend. I don't think I've ever met Andrew in Scotland either. I think we only ever meet somewhere in the world. So it's a funny little world of the ambassador world. But yeah, out in the world chatting all things Douglas Ling.
Amazing. So could you give us a brief overview of the Douglas Ling story, and then we'll get into the Strathearn story?
Yeah, so kind of it makes sense for the journey. So Douglas Ling started in 1948. So started by a gentleman called Fred Douglas Ling. That's where the name comes from. Nice and easy. So Fred was essentially kind of the man on the ground for a US-based company here in Scotland. They had a brand called the King of Scots. It was kind of not a bottom shelf blended Scotch, but like a good level blended Scotch. And he was their man in Scotland, sourcing the liquid, putting together the blends, and organising the bottling, etc. Then in 1948, they were selling up a group of different brands, and they offered Fred the chance, as he was the man organising it, would you like to buy the King of Scots brand? So they said the final three casks of the final three casks of liquid available, the brand and kind of the rough recipe outline, and they sold that to Fred in 1948 for £1, which is a pretty damn good deal, as it turns out. So the first, so yeah, it's kind of how we started was basically just one brand. It was the King of Scots, and we still make it today, and it's actually quite a historic brand. It goes all the way back to the 1880s, so it's a brand that's been around for a long time. But that's how Douglas Ling started. The first 20 to 30 years of the company was basically Fred sourcing liquid, getting enough casks and stock together, normally 3-4-year-old single malts, maybe a little bit older grains, and then putting together a blend of the King of Scots, bottling it and shipping it out. That was really how we operated. What changed and how Douglas Ling developed was, as you get a bit more cash flow, it allowed us to move into filling contracts where you get X amount of liquid from each distillery every year that we work with. Because when you're blending, you just want as many different things as possible, ideally with a consistency. So therefore, you want the same distilleries or similar distilleries every time. So we would get maybe 2,000 or 3,000 litres of Killila, 2,000 or 3,000 litres of Blair Athol, started filling this into our own choice of wood, our own choice of casks, maturing it ourselves, and being able to then produce a consistent King of Scots. That kind of very quickly takes us through. This is going to be the fastest history ever of a company. So that takes us kind of into the late 70s, early 80s. But before that, Fred Jr., Fred 2, current Fred, depending how you like to do it, second generation of the company, and his brother Stuart. We are the Douglas Ling side, not the Hunter Ling side. Mm-hmm. Don't mention them too much. But essentially, Fred and Stuart came into the family business in the early 70s, kind of ran the business with their dad until the 80s, until Fred Sr. passed away. In the beginning of the 90s, big kind of move towards interest in single malt. We'd basically been a blender all the way for the first 50 years of the company. 90s, we saw this movement, just an increased interest in single malts. We had seen people like Gordon MacPhail, Cadenheads, Berry Brothers, these quite successful independent bottlers. And at the time, we were sitting on some pretty phenomenal stuff. And so from the early 90s, Douglas Ling transitioned into blender and bottler. Through the 90s, I've seen the stuff we've released. It was ridiculous. You're talking like 17, 18-year-old Port Ellens, Rosebanks, Broras, you name it, we bottled it. Some pretty phenomenal stuff. And that kind of took us through into the 2000s. In 2009, Fred created Big Pete, and that kind of really gave a kind of fresh start, if you like, took Douglas Ling into the next stage of its
evolution. Big Pete was kind of this overnight success for us. It was a combination of Kalila, Bowmore, Ardbeg, and Port Ellen. It's not a bad combination to summarise Isla. And so that led to the creation of the regional malts, so Scallywag, Timber's Beastie, etc. And so that kind of really led Douglas Lane forward. So for the last 10, 15 years, the regional malts outweigh in terms of volume the single cask world for us. So they became a much bigger piece of Douglas Lane. But there was always this kind of background chat that the idea was always to become a distiller as well. There'd been a few close calls over the years in terms of us maybe buying some other names in Scotch whisky. There's definitely some other distilleries that have changed hands in the last 15 years that were nearly Douglas Lanes. And at this stage now, we move to the third generation. So Cara, third generation, she essentially joined the business in 2013, but today is the managing director at Douglas Lane. But she was always kind of keen to go for something quite craft, quite unique that stood out. And so in 2019, the opportunity came up to buy Strathearn. And at the time, Strathearn was operating as pretty much the smallest distiller in Scotland. It was making only 21,000 litres a year. So when we say small and craft, we really mean small and craft. Yeah. And so for the last 5.5, coming up 6 years, we have been producing at Strathearn ourselves. So that's a very brief history of everything we get to. So
amazing. I mean, that's, to sum it up in like less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, blender to bottler to blender again to distiller. So
I think he's done this before. I think he's given that talk before somewhere.
Maybe. It's what they for, right?
He's never had to.
Perfect. So I feel like when the word craft is banded around quite a lot, like if someone asked you what makes Strathearn craft, like what is craft, what would you say?
So when the gentleman that started Strathearn back in 2013, a gentleman called Tony Reeman Clark, he's now actually in the process of helping put together the new Orkney distillery as well. Same size, very small scale. Again, this idea was to almost take whiskey back the way. Like when we say craft, it's literally a small barn attached to a farm, but everything was very much done manually and done by hand. There's basically no buttons in this distillery, and Strathearn remains the same since Douglas Lane took over, and we've just kind of tweaked it. We've kind of expanded it a little bit just in terms of the volume. I think last time I looked at this, I was trying to work out if we're 4th or 5th smallest in Scotland. So since Douglas Lane took over, this year will produce just shy of 60,000 litres. And I realised that often with the kind of Portensip group, for anyone just kind of getting into whiskey, scale-wise in Scotch whisky, less than 60,000 litres is not big. What that really comes down to number-wise, it's maybe a bit more accessible, is we essentially fill 1 barrel per day.
Yeah.
Which is pretty small in Scottish terms.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, do you know, like for comparison, like a big hitter?
So what, your Glenfiddichs, your Glenlivets, like 20 million plus. Macallan's 17 million. I started at Auchentoshan, and Auchentoshan is not a massive distillery. It still made about 1 million to 1.4 million litres a year. So
and we're on 60,000.
Yeah, exactly. So when we say small, we really mean small. Second part was really kind of the manual process, if you like. So until very recently, the guys got bags of malt delivered, 25 kilogram bags. They would then hike them onto the shoulder, go up the set of stairs to manually pour these bags into the mash tun itself. The mash tun kind of small scale was shoveled out by hand at the end. The distillery itself is quite a unique looking distillery, if you like. It's quite funky looking in terms of the shape of our stills, which I can talk about later. But maybe for me, my favorite point about it, there's a few other bits and pieces I'll mention, but when you go to most big distilleries in Scotland, for anyone that's visited a distillery in Scotland, you normally get to the distillation point and you have this big glass cabinet, the sample safe, which is your spirit running through. It's this locked cabinet, this wonderful story of the taxman having one key and the distillery having the other key, so you never got access to your spirit in case you were siphoning things off. It all comes down to taxes. But it means that when you're pulling samples, it's all done kind of temperature, timing, and kind of very become more and more precise over the years. At Strathearn, we don't have a sample safe. So there's not many distilleries that have this open running spirit, essentially. So we've just got a spout coming out of our condenser at the spirit still, running the spirit freely, where the guys will do, we know the rough timing for making sure we don't make ourselves go blind. And from that stage, for deciding how we select the heart cut, the overall spirit, the essence of Strathearn, it's done by taste. So the guys are sticking a finger underneath, tasting. And when we feel the spirit is changing away from the profile we're looking for, we make the cut. So for me, that is craft. That is the essence of craft.
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh, I'd love to see that.
Well, if anyone ever tries to charge you for a tour, I think a tour takes about 4.5 minutes because you can stand at one end of the room and see the entire distillery in front of you. That's like you're really probably only looking about 10 meters by 4 meters. It's pretty small space.
Can people go visit?
Not officially. Essentially, if the guys are busy, then they're busy. But if you stopped in and asked if you could take a photo, and if they have 5 minutes, they'll give you 5 minutes. But don't hold me on my word on that. We're not bus tours.
Don't go in boat loads. So you mentioned like the essence of Strathearn. What is the essence of Strathearn?
Good. Yeah, that's my buzzwords, if you like. So it's for those that maybe Strathearn is not obviously a big name. It never is going to be a big game. We don't see this as we're never going to be a big volume because we've hit capacity for the site. Like we are limited. There's no growing of Strathearn. It is just us doing this craft distillation style. So we're in the bottom of the Highlands. So we're just outside of Perth. Kind of closest distilleries, you've got Tullabarden not too far away, you've got Glenturret not too far away, so kind of lower Highlands. And the idea was always to make this kind of very cereal forward style of whiskey. Big thing about Douglas Lane that we're getting, and Andrew talked about it as well, that it's not doing big sherry bombs or not doing big intensity. We want the spirit of the distillery to shine through rather than the cask necessarily. So it's always going to be very cereal forward. So one of the key choices that we kept from the gentleman that started the distillery was the type of barley that we're using.
Okay.
So most of your big producers, it's all about being fast and efficient, and essentially it's about how much money you're spending. That's led to most distillers typically using the same variants of barley, so the same varieties. A lot of these are kind of quite modern varieties. It's all about how much alcohol yield you get. We're kind of doing the opposite. So our type of barley is called Maris Otter. And if anyone's a home brewer, that will become very familiar to you. Maris Otter brewers love using it because of the texture it gives you. It's all about kind of texture. Terrible yield, all about texture. So what we end up with our whiskey is something really big, really robust. And what we're sampling tonight is still in the kind of early stages of development for Strathearn. This is kind of us laying down the blueprint, our DNA of what the distillery is going to be, but really cereal driven. And that Maris Otter barley really shines through, especially in the mouthfeel. So, and also I have the bottle with me because it's always worth having the bottle because we love our little acorn design of the bottle.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that.
So this whole idea, this whole kind of concept, this idea that small acorns, mighty oak trees grow. So Strathearn is this tiny little thing, but we want it to obviously go out in the world and become something really, really special. So this is only batch 2 that you're trying. So batch 1, the inaugural release from Douglas Lane, came out last year. This was a combination of bourbon barrels, Oloroso sherry, and virgin American oak casks. It was 32 single casks, and that gave us roughly 12,000 bottles for the world in 2024. Batch 2 that we're sampling tonight, we loved the first batch, but the idea with the batching is we are working towards establishing what our house style is going to be. So expect probably 3, 4, 5 batches total. And we're just working our way through the balance to find out what style of Strathearn we want to do. So this second batch that we're trying, we've kind of all agreed that we almost like a little bit better. It's a little bit more balanced, more rounded. So what we did here is we reduced the virgin oak, that kind of spiciness, that intensity of the virgin oak, and I'd brought that up with a bit more of our first and second fill bourbons. So we're just rounding it, mellowing it out, just making this really, really creamy style of whiskey. Like I say, the texture is a big thing. The overall background, if you like, in terms of flavor, like I can get really geeky about this because it is quite a geeky whiskey. This isn't a whiskey that's going to be in a supermarket shelf ever. It's just not. It is going to be the small details and why it's why it's special. So again, most distillers, they're trying to get faster fermentations. The average fermentation's 40 to 70 hours or so, or 48 to 70, quite quick. What we are averaging normally for a batch of Strathearn is about 144 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Super long fermentation. It allows a bit of lactic build-up, so we get a nice big fruity punch. For me, it comes across a lot of kind of stone fruit, lots of apricots, lots of peaches. Then it all sweetens up, so you end up with kind of like apricot marmalade kind of feel to it. We're bottling everything at 50% alcohol. That's going to be the kind of core standard for Strathearn. We'll do some cask strength releases, but 50% alcohol standard. Again, it's a whiskey for whiskey drinkers that want to taste where that whiskey comes from, not hidden away behind lots of big, strong cask influence necessarily.
Yeah, definitely. I think now is a great time to see what everyone's getting from the whiskey, Andy.
Yeah. So after everyone was just talking about me and how nice that carried on for a bit. And then Mike Pizarro. Is anyone getting any kind of nota for this? I'm hardly getting anything at first. Steve Coleman Williams, I am, but it's super subtle. I've left mine breathing before stream started, though. Then getting hints of apricot upside down pudding on the nose, as mentioned, subtle. Peter Gilmore, barley, sherry to the nose with a hint of honey and orange zest. Clive Hampton, hint of lemon and lime initially. A real boinger. I get melons and custard on the nose, spicy cherry, peach and jackfruit on the palate with custard coming in at the finish. Peter Gilmore, oak spices, golden syrup to the palate. Malcolm Tucker on the nose, again, orange, peach, golden syrup. You were talking about peaches, weren't you? Dougal says quite a bit again.
Yeah, so lots like kind of like say apricot, peaches, that all makes sense. Again, it's just the certain cuts that we're making. The big thing again, so it is at 50% ABV. So for those that are sampling it, a few drops of water can help open it out a little bit just to kind of bring it down. For me, it's the big thing is one, to imagine that this is our starting point. So this whiskey in the glass. So Strathearn started in 2013. So we actually have stock now that's about 12 years old. In the bottle, you're looking, age range is average about 7.5 years old.
Okay.
But it's really big and robust style of whiskey. So especially when you get in the mouth, it's instantly this kind of creamy mouth coating. I know some people have been talking about the syrupiness of it. It's kind of very thick and juicy. For me, it's kind of taking that. It's not dried apricot. It's like proper juicy apricot style, and that kind of like jamminess to it. So it's this kind of idea of this is the starting steps of this distillery. This is kind of our idea of doing the batching, is to allow people to see how it develops.
How was it differed from the first batch?
So we reduced the virgin oak. So this batch one, or inaugural batch, was 32 single casks. This was 31 single casks. So yeah, really big volumes we're talking about. But essentially in terms of the balance, we reduced the virgin American oak because the first one was pretty spicy in the finish. So that as we can mellow that out a little bit, the idea was to make it a bit more rounded, a bit more of this kind of balanced dram. So again, if you think of this being like a 7-year-old introduction to Strathearn, this is kind of this is where we're starting, and you can imagine as this whiskey is going to grow and develop and age up, it's just going to get richer, deeper.
What's the general like viewpoint of everybody when, like, because you guys tried it for a while now, like, is there like a general viewpoint of where you guys see the next batch going, of like, we think it's a bit too much of this, it's a bit too much of this going on, or are you just waiting on things like this and Pour and Sip will give you all the kind of research and development now and then everyone's
I guess it's kind of part of it is also us like getting in to see how it's aging up as well, because obviously we know what the spirit tastes like, and we know now what certain styles taste like. The big thing that changed for when Douglas Lane took over, the initial owners, they did almost everything into firkins, blood tubs, like super small concentrated casks. So a lot of the casks that we inherited, they were really, really woody. And I mean really woody, like 3-4 years old, and like molasses, like super intense wood influence, which is not a Douglas Lane style at all. So a lot of what we did was kind of some recasking, moving things around, kind of mellowing out that liquid. So we're now only just seeing our own creation of the last kind of 6-7 years develop into where we are now guiding it the direction we want it to go. I would expect for us, as is quite standard for Douglas Lane, where we will always do a lot of kind of first and second fill bourbon hogsheads. So this kind of softer wood influence again, a lot of second fill sherry casks, so subtle cask influence, allowing that kind of apricot fruity element and the Maris Otter to shine. There's no point in us using Maris Otter barley if you can't see that influence come through in the liquid. So big thing for us with Strathearn is making sure your whiskey tastes like whiskey, doesn't just taste like cask.
Yeah, And then it's interesting because you said that you felt like a little drop of water could, and Greg Buick was struggling on the nose, but the taste is, wow, loving this dram. One drop of water opens up the palate even more, is what he's saying. So that was kind of,
again, I know we talk about this a lot with you guys, but this kind of, don't be afraid to like split your dram off into 2 glasses, keep one at bottling strength, add some water to the other one, see what changes, see which you prefer. Yeah. We obviously choose to bottle this at a high alcohol because of the style of whiskey, because it is this kind of small batch craft style. So we kind of offer it at this high ABV, but it doesn't mean that you can't control it to a level that you're comfortable with.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Also, I was going to say, at the end of all the batches, will there eventually be a core release?
That's kind of the principal idea that we're working on, yes. So this isn't going to be like 12, 14, 16 batch. The whole point of us doing the batches is for us to develop it, to allow people to taste that development as we go through the kind of journey of releasing Strathearn. Because obviously it's new for us as well. It's our first single malt release into the world. So the idea of these batches will develop to becoming a kind of our favoured core style. And most likely, I'm not saying this is 100% confirmed. This is not 100% in black and written in ink. But the idea would be kind of that core release will be our kind of standard through the year, most likely featuring an age statement as well.
Okay, very nice. Is it? Are you only using the one kind of barley, or is that just the predominant barley?
No, 100% only Maris Sauternes.
Okay. Oh, fun. And then if you're kind of figuring out your, like your distillery character at the moment, does that mean, like, are you working on any other like cask types and like any other fermentations on the side, or what's
so we're still running small scale experiments. The nice thing about Strathearn is when you do a small scale experiment, like a day's day's work is essentially a cask. So therefore you can do one. That's kind of it. But we've done a few different things, filled in some different things. Because it's quite precious in terms of volume, we're not doing lots and lots and lots of different experiments in terms of the fermentation of things. So it's about kind of maximizing our efficiency within the distillery of what we can achieve, and then play around a little bit there. And it's a team of 3 people. And Angela, our head distiller, she's kind of, we are very lucky to have her. But all the guys that work in there are brewing background. So they're very up for yeast and fermentation experiments and things like that. So everyone within the distillery is a brewer's background originally.
That really comes through.
A couple of questions as just coming through. Just might as well ask them. Mike Bizarro is asking, how often are you planning to let people subscribe to receive these batches and be part of like a
Strathearn club?
Yeah.
Not quite, but right now. It's viewed, and we have the liquid stock that we could do multiple batches per year, but we're also quite cautious in terms of how much Strathearn we want to release.
Sure.
So at the moment, it's really been kind of one release a year, and that's been around April, May time in 2024 and 2025. And part of it will be down to how sales are doing. Naturally, we're still a commercial business. If suddenly all the Strathearn sells out in the next month, then maybe we'd consider, there's demand for this, let's do another batch. But at the same time, we're in no rush to develop this. So the most likely at the moment, it will be a year release.
Yeah. Okay. There's just another question here from Alex Antonio. What's your take on a link between craft whiskies and not needing age statements? Does the control mean that age statements are not needed as you can manage complexity? And is that concept now outdated?
I think what we've seen from this new wave, I'd call it, it's almost like new wave wine, I guess, to an extent. So starting with like Arran in 1995, but you look at our growth of like celebrated distilleries in the last few years, Lochlee, Rassay, all these kind of new younger distillers. I think part of it is more to do with how much volume you produce. Most of us guys starting out now are producing small volume, so you want to release it early so people can kind of develop that fanship of it, that develop these kind of getting to have that full experience of a journey. Everyone will still generally work towards an age statement. Like I said, I think you see it with Lochlee is a good example of them transitioning into releasing age statements. I think part of it's also just we're still in that mindset of where older was better almost. This kind of age meant quality. there was amazing whiskey at all times, but sometimes cask choice let us down, things like that, big volume for blending. So there wasn't so much reason to release non-age statement or younger whiskey. A lot of it's price driven. Strathearn is it's not like a non-age statement you'll find in a supermarket for £25. It's just not. It's a more expensive premium.
It's better this way because we get to try stuff. Back in the day, people would have had to wait the 10 years fully, the kind of the age statement, the lowest, which would have been 10 back in the day. And then now you're getting whiskey quicker, and and you're getting to see the kind of the journey that distilleries are going on.
And I think in terms of like quality choice as well, in terms of casks, like it's not like we don't need to rush things out. There's not this kind of life cycle of cask. Like with the amount of money that as an industry that we invest now in wood policy and maturation planning, like mapping out 15, 20 years, that wasn't necessarily happening. There was a lot less of that kind of, most whiskey was going towards blends. There wasn't this idea of putting in whiskey that wanted to stand up as a 3 or 4 year old. Whereas for us now, you taste the new make of Strathearn, all of the DNA is there. It tastes amazing at 63.5% unaged. So naturally, when we get to 3, 4, 5 years old and we still think the quality's there, we're not going to release it if we don't think it's good. So why should we not give people the chance to try it?
I get it. I remember we had, I can't remember who it was, and they early doors pour and sip, talking about four years ago or something, and I think they're from New Zealand, and they were releasing their stuff whilst they were growing the Just Hatched, which was like a 3-year-old, and they put it on the bottle, Just Hatched 3-year-old, and then
it's the Cadrona.
That's what Cadrona. The Australian or New Zealand, I can't remember.
New Zealand.
Okay, yeah. I remember that, and being like at the time, and this was only 4 years ago, I was a bit like, oh blimey, 3 years old, right there, spat on the bottle. But it was a great whiskey. I really liked it. So
again, it's great. I think it's a nice argument of if it's good, it's good, and it doesn't matter what. In this kind of, again, it's this changing of attitudes, younger whiskey audience, people coming into it. Craft gin probably helped as well in terms of that. People were more being flavor led rather than what's on the label. We're pretty particular about putting all the detail, as much of that transparency as possible on the label. But I think people are more concerned with how something tastes rather than the actual, like, oh, this is 10 years, this must be the best.
Well, yeah, and I think if you think like back in, I don't know how many years ago they released it, but when Ardbeg released the Wee Beastie, the 5, that was like in Sainsbury's and stuff, as like bang smack there in the middle, like 5-year-old whiskey, which kind of you often see in these kind of places, and it was kind of, I suppose, cool in a way. Weirdly, was I think more expensive than the 10-year-olds, which I don't know, but anyway, but it was, it wasn't something you often saw. So I think going back to that point, this took a slight tangent, but yeah, I think that concept is a little bit outdated now. The idea that if it's older, it must be better.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a difference in terms of younger whiskey being more vibrant, more intense in that flavor, and then naturally that will refine itself within the cask. That is chemistry and science. Whereas the good versus bad argument is very, very personal. So I've had amazing whiskey at 4 years old, and I've had god awful whiskey at 50. So it's the nature of whiskey. And the nice thing with Douglas Laying, we're taking the same principle with Strathearn, etc., with the regional malts, with the single casks. Everything runs through Cara and Fred, and essentially they've operated this way for the entire history of Douglas Laying. Is if we like it, we're going to probably release it. And that's worked for 77 years. So let's keep going.
Break a winning formula there.
Exactly. It's set. And Strathearn is always going to be this kind of niche whiskey. I think it's nice that we've got it in the tasting tonight, because it's maybe a different audience. You wouldn't necessarily see Strathearn out there. As I say, you're not going to see it in a supermarket shelf ever. So therefore it is going to be more within the community, that word of mouth, that have you tried this thing? And so we're fully aware of that.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, you've got a few more people to spread the word of mouth now. Amazing. Time has flown. So thank you so much for returning again.
I'll be back in some other ways.
Exactly. Yeah, it won't be long. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much. That was great. I really love that whiskey. I'm a real stone fruit kind of gal, so this is right up my street.
I'm going to awkwardly just wait 1 second to take you off there, Dougal, because I've actually forgotten my tech skills today are just falling apart. Right, there you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. We're just flying ahead, but there's an hour's passed already. Which is fun. So much good whiskey. I'm slightly falling apart. That's why I had to leave early. I had to just cough and
oh no,
my nose. But anyway,
need to run.
I think what will wake my palate up is a Springbank. So, without further ado, let's invite Melanie on to talk all things Springbank. How's it going?
Fine, thanks. And you?
Yeah, really well, thank you. Is that the actual backdrop behind you? Are you just looking out the window or something? Or is that
I know. I'm busy papering, so it's to hide the lack of wallpaper.
Looks great.
Your wallpaper, in fairness, that'd be pretty awesome wallpaper. So, Melanie, talk to us a little bit about, you've not been on before. We've not had Springbank on before, so this is super exciting. We had, did we have Kilkerran or a?
I think you've had Kilkerran and maybe Campbelltown Loch before.
We've had Campbelltown Loch, that's the one, and we may have had a Kilkerran. I think we did the heavily peated, but we've not had Springbank on, so I think everyone's very excited about this, myself included. So, but firstly, talk to us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself and how you got into working as brand ambassador for Springbank.
All right. Well, I've studied French and German at uni, and I was a teacher for a few years, and then I thought there's got to be more to life than this. And so at that time I was living in Glasgow, and I applied for a job at Glengoyne Distillery, and sort of I said, look, I don't know anything about whiskey, but I can hopefully help with the languages. And they said, well, that's no problem. We can teach you all about whiskey. And so that sort of, I started there and just really got the bug. And then as you find out more about it, obviously Springbank is always one of those whiskies and distilleries that's just very special. And so I actually came down here before I worked here to visit the maltings, because obviously it's so difficult to see that actually working at many distilleries. And when I came down, I just thought Campbelltown was a lovely wee tune, as they say. And who would think, 10 years later, I would be working for the distillery.
Yeah, that's amazing. Great story. Where do you live at the moment, though? So you're not in Campbelltown?
No, I am in Campbelltown. So very much if you work for the company, even within sales and marketing, it's required to move to the wee tune.
I love that, the wee tune. Okay.
Yeah, the wee tune.
So, just talk to us a little bit about Campbelltown first, because it was once the absolute golden spot of the whiskey industry, and then it kind of fell apart, and now there's only the 2 or 3 distilleries there. So what happened?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you could time travel back to the middle of the 19th century, there were about 40 working distilleries in Campbelltown, and there was a population of about 12,000 people. And then it just went up and up and up, a bit like it has been for the past 20 odd years with whiskey. And then just all of a sudden, after the First World War in the 1920s, it collapsed. And within about a 10-15 year period, we were just left with about 3 working distilleries in the town. And so loads of different reasons, but obviously a lot of them just culminating together had a huge impact. And so lots of people feel just the sort of fashion was changing. People had enough of whiskey at Springbank and Campbelltown, so they wanted a change. Other people thought the quality was dipping, and so other whiskies were stepping up with maybe more variety, more flavours, character, and so they were taking off. Also as well, you had improved train travel, which obviously plays to Speyside. Even nowadays, our nearest train is Araker, so so fairly far away, and so our transport was very much dependent on the sea, and so when the sea was king, that was the motorway, we were fine, but once that disappeared, we really struggled transport wise as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting, but now it's thriving, I suppose, and you guys are thriving in particular. So Springbank, and you were talking about it because have such a unique identity within the whiskey industry. Kind of to you, in your words, like kind of what makes it so special?
So, I mean, I think for me, I love the fact that everything is done in-house. Everything is done. I mean, it's a long way to come to Campbelltown, but once you're in Campbelltown, you can see absolutely everything. So you see all the malting, traditional floor malting. You can visit, do your own wee barley angel if you want. And then we have our lovely traditional Porteous mill like everybody else. And then we have an open wash mash tun, so over 100 years old, all your cast iron. And then you walk into the still house and you can actually see the first still, the wash still, has actually got bricks underneath to support it. And that's because it's direct fire, as well as your indirect fire inside the stills. And just all the wee sort of nooks and crannies that you go up and down stairs, down ladders on your tour. You can just get the sight, sounds of smell of whiskey being made, but it's no computer, there's no comfy leather chair. The guys are, up and down, pulling on ropes, twisting the valves. Just really, really labour intensive.
Yeah, this is just, I've never been. It's just it's on my bucket list just to see it all. But you were saying how kind of famous is 100% of production. It's all done on site. You were talking about the floor maltings and kind of how important is this to this process and the character of the whiskey that we're drinking?
So I think for the Springbank, it's so unusual because it's distilled 2.5 times and no one else really does this. And I think it just sort of gives a bit more body to the whiskey. It's a really, really super thick, oily whiskey as well. And you can see all the lovely oil when you move it around in your glass. And then also
a comment, just because someone said, Alex is saying about the legs in this glass are amazing. So,
And just obviously what you get in your glass is what you're going to get in your mouth as well. It really, really coats your mouth and just gives you a lovely, lovely flavour. And you're getting sort of a full fat, a full cream version because it hasn't been chill filtered. So there's absolutely nothing removed. Basically, it's just the whiskey coming out the cask. Water is added, which is again all local. So it's all water from Crosshill Loch at every stage of production. And it just works really, really well with the oiliness, the creaminess, and then that extra sort of half distillation just gives you a bit more robust, bit more body. And then obviously as well, the barley for Springbank is always lightly peated. So it's just that 6 hours in peat smoke. So you've got some smoke coming in. And the lovely thing for me about the 10-year-old is the smoke is present, but it's not dominant. And sometimes when the whiskies are a wee bit younger, it can just be, overpowering the peat smoke, unless that's obviously your thing.
Yeah.
But obviously all got our individual preferences.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the other thing that comes up in the glass for me, and it's often is I don't know, people have different ways of putting this, but there's this thing called it's like a Springbank funk for me that's always just present in Springbank in general. Where does that come from, or what is that, to you?
Yeah, to me, it's probably a wee bit to do with the earthiness, the dunnage warehouses, because you can go round and, we've got a mixture of rack warehouses and dunnage warehouses. And I think being located in the southwest of Scotland, it's very damp. And so when you go into dunnage warehouse, it is very much a cellar. Sometimes the water is actually running out on the outside of the drain pipe inside the building rather than outside, just depending on the volume of water we're getting. And I think as well, just for me, a wee bit of the Springbank funk is a bit of the coastal effect because the distillery is only about 200 metres from the sea.
Yeah.
And so say, for example, this afternoon, the office window was open, but because you had that humidity, but you could tell there was rain coming in, opening the window, you got that lovely sort of salty ozone smell. And you can get that when you're walking about the town. And to me, you get a wee bit of that saltiness, maritime, coastal influence coming into the whiskey as well. And that's sort of, to me, a combination of both of them, sort of the peat and the coast, is really, a nice mix in this glass.
Yeah, it's just that for me is the real kind of unique thing with Springbank. It's like instantly recognizable for me, and that's one that's really important. But it's kind of almost become like a mythical quantity, Springbank in this kind of whiskey world, limited kind of releases. It's kind of this cult following, and bottles kind of flying off the shelves all the time. So how does the distillery approach that growing demand for?
Right. Well, I think the first thing for us was obviously you can't make whiskey today and sell it tomorrow. That's the issue. And our previous owner and chairman, Mr. Wright, had inherited the distillery in the 1970s. So he had very much inherited whiskey lochs and almost lost the company.
Okay.
So through his whole tenure, he was very, very conservative in production.
Mhm.
And so he kept it very, very limited. So, I mean, about, I think, 2012, 2015, up until about 2018, production was about 100,000 litres a year.
Okay.
And then that's total production for Springbank. And then from 2018, it's actually doubled to 200,000 litres a year.
Okay.
So obviously come 2028, there will be more 10-year-old in the shelf.
Yeah.
And then you do your maths, 2032, there'll be more, 2033 even, more, more 15, you get the idea. So that has been made, but yeah, I think for us, it's not just a case of increasing production, because we need to keep it all in-house. So it has to be sort of a small scale.
I think that's part of it as well. Like you say, that you know, the idea of it is this traditional small scale, 100% on site. That's part of the myth, you know, the why people really enjoy it and like it as a brand and as a distillery. I think it's really important, I think, for the distillery to be at that kind of level. If you just grow and grow and grow, it just, things get lost in translation and things have to be taken offsite and that thing. And it's just, I don't think that works for the distillery, and that's why it's so good as it is at the moment.
Sorry, is that a question or?
No, it's just a general point.
Oh, yeah, and so I mean, yeah, obviously Mr. Wright is unfortunately no longer with us, but the MD, chairman, who've all stepped up, have all been with the company for about 20-25 years, and so everybody's very aware of sort of what we have is so special. And as you were saying, nobody's going to ramp up production, you know, just to get it on the shelf. I would say, actually, interestingly enough, we had a release today within the UK, and the market's definitely changing. So, I mean, we sort of got used to, you know, queues, people camping overnight, you know, for the release, queues maybe of 40, 50 people. But this morning there was a queue, but it was only about 20 to 30 people. Okay. So you can see, you know, it's changing. But in one way, we're really happy about that, because it means that the people who are buying it are drinking it. Yeah. And that's why whiskey is made to be drunk. It's not made, you know, to be put in a cupboard and, you know, just there to gather dust and then, you know, maybe sold to make some money. It's really, you know, the guys spend a lot of time and effort to have a lovely tasting whiskey, and they want people to enjoy it. I mean, for me, whiskey is a lovely social drink. You know, you can have it with your friends and you're all smelling and tasting different things, and it can really start lots of conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely completely agree with that. I've taught that all about people who just queue up, and they would have been queuing for Springbank bottles and then just to sell them off on auctions and stuff like that. Just felt like a real shame to the kind of the process that you've been talking about, what makes Springbank so special. It feels like a real shame. But tonight we're drinking the 10-year-old, which I've always thought is quite a good entry into just Springbank. The character is just literally in this bottle and this dram. Talk to us about what we're drinking tonight.
Yep, so the Springbank 10 is obviously Springbank that was distilled 10 years ago at least. What we do is when the spirit runs off the still, it's filled into a mixture of bourbon casks or sherry casks. And then about 9.5 years old, the guys in productions take samples from the different casks and they basically marry them up. And so we have a maturation recipe for the 10-year-old, which is 60% bourbon casks and 40% sherry casks. So they'll be in sherry casks or bourbon casks for 10 years and then vatted together about 6 months before bottling. And when they go to the bottling hall, they're all emptied into a big vat, and then they measure the ABV and they add water to dilute it down to about 48%. And then for the final 6 months of its maturation life, it's actually just marrying nice and gently the whiskey and the water. And then after the 6 months, in the neutral cask, so it's just a holding vessel, it's not giving any more colour or flavour, the whiskey goes back into the bottling hall. We add a tiny bit more water, to bring it down to 46%, which is obviously our standard bottling strength. You will not find a Springbank of less than 46%.
Yeah, I think we should get trying this one. There's a lot of notes coming in already, aren't there, Jess?
Yeah. You have a sip while I'll read these out. Who have we got? We've got Mike Pizarro saying nose like virgin olive oil, and then just a little bonfire in the background. Steve Colin Williams, this didn't disappoint the olfactory receptors. Beach bonfire, roasting marshmallows on an autumn night. Those were the days. Peter Gilmore, oak, hay, and honey to the nose. Malcolm Tucker. The nose starts with a waft of peat on a brisk sea breeze, followed by hay meadow and undertones of tropical fruit. What else have we got? Peter Gilmore, creamy oat, orange, vanilla, toffee, and smoke on the palate. Peter Barrett, delightful dram, smooth, complex flavors with a light smoke. Absolutely spot on Springbank. There are so many. Oh my gosh, we've got Clive Hampton, very creamy, vanilla with subtle smoke, very special. Steve Colin Williams, this is wonderful. I can see where it was left till last. Peter Gilmore, sea salt and peachy cider finish. I like that one.
Peachy cider, okay.
Mike Pizarro, I'm lost. There are so many flavors in there. Definitely some citrus in the finish. And as Andy said, a distinct funk, which I can't place. Olive, salt, but also oats and toffee. Real Boinga, like a honeyed fruit and cereal bar with an apricot jam finished, all consumed by the sea. Very nice.
Yeah.
Who have we got? Greg Buick. When I first started to get into malt whiskey, Springbank was one of my absolute favourites, and this dram reminds me why. And KG saying, not had a Springbank 10 in almost 10 years, still top quality, lovely stuff.
Yeah.
And we got a question for you from Steve Colin Williams saying, what glass are you drinking from? Because it doesn't look like a traditional Glencairn.
No, actually, good question. I just looking in the cupboard and I found this one that didn't have a brand on it, and so that was why I chose it. Yeah, I think I picked it up at a whiskey festival.
I like it.
A few years ago, and I just I quite like flowers, so to me it's a wee bit like a tulip or something like that. It's a wee bit.
Yeah, I was going to say it's like a really extra version of this. I think just bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big on everything, the pour and sippers.
Yeah, absolutely. So will this become, you think maybe in a few years' time, the 10 will become even more available on the shelves?
Definitely. Yeah. But I do have to say that we have got a new whiskey coming out.
That's my last one. I can't wait to hear this one.
All right. In August, September time. And this is actually going to be a Springbank 5-year-old.
This is what we were just talking about before, about the Ardbeg releasing the 5-year-olds. Okay.
So it's a Springbank 5-year-old, and it's going to be bottled at 100 proof. So your magic 57.1%. And it will be only matured in bourbon casks.
Okay.
And so obviously this was part of this, the whiskey for this is coming from 2018. So come 2028, although we're celebrating 200 years of the distillery, we will have some more Springbank 10, but we'll also have been releasing this 5-year-old Springbank. So the sort of new extra stock and quotes will be used for, the new Springbank 100 proof, as well as more 10 and more 15 in the future. Luckily, it's someone else's job to do that sort of balancing act.
I absolutely love the 15. It's one of my favorite. But if I am to drink a big sherry hitter, that 15 is just nuts. It's just funky, just dirty sherry. It's lovely. It's one of my favorites. But what colour's the 5-year-old going to be label-wise? I need to know for my collection just to see where it should line up.
Yeah. So it's coming out. It's quite pale because obviously it's a bourbon cask, but it's a nice sort of golden colour to it. I'd say on the nose, it's obviously quite punchy because it is 57.1, but also as well, because it's young, you get more of the peat coming through in the nose too. But then in the palate, you've got nice sweetness, vanilla, sort of your tropical fruits, wine gums coming through in the palate, as well as, again, some more peat is present. So actually I was at a festival in Warsaw at the weekend and I was trying it there, and some folk were adding water, and they found that just the water obviously makes it a wee bit sweeter, but reduces that bit of alcohol and sometimes can just make the peat a bit more intense as well.
Okay, lovely. Are there any others coming out that maybe some of the cask finishes at all?
So we've got the next in the sherry series, but that's not coming out towards like November, December time. And so if you like your sherry, you'll like this series. And so we're now, believe it or not, at the second last release in this series.
Okay.
And so it's Fino.
Fino. Okay.
Yeah.
And has Springbank done Fino before?
I think quite a few years ago.
Okay.
But for the sherry series for this one, this is the first time we're doing the Fino.
Okay, well, that all sounds very, very exciting. I have to say, that 5-year-old. I'll be really interested to try that one. So yeah, well, thank you very much for talking to us, Melanie. It's been an absolute pleasure. We're going to present 2 more drams. I know everyone's drunk a lot of whiskey tonight. We're just going to do 2 more drams, and then hopefully we can see you at the end.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Someone's just, I think it's Mike Pizarro says, I don't understand how something this unique can be so quaffable, because it was made to be.
Yes.
Made to be drunk.
I do think as well that, like, in general, uniqueness, I can't remember, it can also be like it's a really good thing. It's not even, it's just, in general, this is so, for me, it's quite instantly recognizable as Springbank. And it's not that other whiskies aren't instantly recognizable, but it really does stand out. And I think that's one of the reasons why people love it so much. But yeah, really, really good, that one. I think that's one of my, if it was more available, I would have bought loads and loads of those. But in general, like,
everyone.
It will be, but no, but the 10-year-old is just such a good opener into the range. So I'm pleased you all enjoyed it. Ali C saying Springbank was a favourite. Used to be fairly easy to get hold of about 15 years ago. I wasn't drinking 15 years ago. I was drinking Jack Daniels then at uni or something like that. Like slight peat smoke notes, maple syrup, flapjack, bit of citrus peel, and then an oily briny finish. Magnificent. And everyone's now talking about old fashioned glass. So shall we? I'm going to save that one because
I've been requested by my boyfriend to save this. So
okay. It's fine to come on. You save it for yourself. Come on.
I'll be on that bottle when this ends.
Well, no, someone said it's sold out. No, but it can't be sold.
I don't think it's live yet. I think that's why.
Live yet, guys. And we're all going to be racing there. So fingers on the pulse. You're gonna have to be first off the gates. No, the stalls. The first
out of the box, I believe.
No, the blocks.
It's blocks.
Right. So let's do these last 2 drams then.
Yes. Right. I will take us on a brief journey through Old Perth. So Old Perth actually used to be a blend back in sort of like the early 1900s. And it was a blend of Speyside, Highland and Islay malts and some grain. And I believe apparently there used to be Macallan in there. But obviously the blend, it died out. And in 2014, the Old Perth name was bought. And now it is a lovely little, hold on. Sorry, I've just dropped my cards everywhere. Yes, today the brand is owned by an independent bottler, and the core bottling is all about like sherry casks, and it's made to be like an approachable and like a sweet dram. However, we've got the Old Perth Manzanilla edition, and if anyone's a sherry geek, you'll know that Manzanilla is very dry and pretty coastal and has sort of these, I mean, sometimes funky flavors, but yeah, quite dry, floral, like nutty kind of flavors. So yes, this is a vatting of 11 handpicked Manzanilla sherry casks. And so yeah, it's something a little different from Old Perth, I think. And you get that lovely like sea spray that Old Perth's like character is known for, plus like that sort of coastal influence from the sherry as well. This is 53.4%. So if you have drunk all the whiskies tonight, don't feel like you have to have 2 more. Or if you do, maybe like as suggested, have 2, try one with water, one without. I think it'd be a really interesting one to add a drop of water to. Yeah, definitely. Old Perth's a really interesting brand. I think it's probably slept on a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say so. They're I think it's the 15 cask strength or whatever it is really, really good. Proper sherry bomb. Right. now we're heading to Denmark for the Stauning, which I'm just nosing this, and I just already know I love this.
I love Stauning.
Just from an instant nose, it's giving me that kind of Scandinavian rye thing, the Kiro kind of thing. I think it's pronounced Host.
It's Hurst.
Hurst. There you go.
I believe.
Someone is fluent in Danish or something and just recognises it. So this is a dram of Hurst. Okay.
It's like Jeffrey Hurst. That's why I remember. Someone said it was Jeffrey Hurst.
Well, it means autumn in Danish, so that's the main thing. It's lightly peated single malt from Stauning, and it's one of the more exciting New World distilleries, Stauning, and it's just on the coast of Jutland, which is quite a windswept location. And just like Springbank, Stauning do everything the traditional way: floor maltings, local Danish barley, fermenting in open wooden washbacks, and using direct fired stills, which is pretty rare in this day and age. Hurst, as it's called, let's try that. It's matured in a combination of first fill bourbon and some rye whiskey casks, which give it this lovely mix of sweetness, spice, and gentle smoke. The spice, for me, the rye is just absolutely wonderful. Getting kind of baked apples, honey, a bit of heather smoke, soft butterscotch kind of vibes. So this is really a good one for those of you looking to try some New World stuff and to try some rye kind of stuff. And for me, this one is instantly really, really good. I know it's just to see the color on that as well. I don't know if it's my light. It's like really kind of like rose hue.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, really, really nice.
I guess it's also worth saying that the future of Stauning sort of hangs in the balance at the moment. So if you do enjoy the whiskey, then I would definitely.
Yeah, I think it's worth. Yeah, they put something up on Instagram as well. They were fundraising for something. It's difficult. I think because I got it wrong, because I thought I was told that Mira as well, another Scandinavian distillery, had issues and gone bust, but then apparently they're not anymore.
Oh well, no, this is because of Diageo's withdrawn from Distill Ventures, so there's no more future investment in Stauning at the moment. So it's not that they are gonna go bust.
Yeah.
But like, hope the future is uncertain because they just don't have any more investment currently going in.
Which is a shame when smelling this.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was definitely. I was reading about it, and yeah, like it was, sales were on the up, like everything was looking really good. So I think it's a big shock.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully everything works itself out because
knock on the door of Diageo because
buy Stauning.
Buy Stauning, or just buy more Stauning. That's the thing. So hopefully we're doing our little bit here at Pour a Sip. So guys, when you buy your Springbank bottle, just remember maybe just add that little Stauning at the end, just to make sure you're kind of helping those guys out, because this is a wonderful, wonderful whiskey. I've got to say, I can already tell that this is going to be right up my street. A couple of people saying the Old Perth is lovely, very Moorish. SPEY Andrew and is joining in the YouTube comments. He's part of the gang. We didn't tell him about the private chat here for us poured sippers, but he's the best Old Perth in the range. Okay. The Old Perth, nose caramel coated nuts, lemon citrus, palate butter, salted almonds, Greek honey, barley sugar, and black cherry jam. So yeah, there you go. All right then. Shall we just check and invite our guests back onto the screen?
Reunite the gang.
Dougal is not there, is he?
No, he had to run.
Because he's just there. I just didn't know because he is there on my backstage still.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, he is here then.
Oh, he is. Okay. Yeah, there he is. Okay. Here we go.
Amazing.
There you go.
So much fun. It was just like I couldn't possibly leave. Hello, guys. It's nice to see Melanie. It's been ages since we last chatted.
Yeah.
It's been such a long time. But thank you guys for joining us all on this wonderful evening. And just before going, we have to ask, well, Jess, you can ask everybody the question.
Yes, please. I think going to be excited to see this one. But yes, so everyone watching All Pour and Sippers, it's time to decide which whiskey was your favorite. We feel like recently we've got into ranking them, and that's also okay. So, but we got to have a number one in there somewhere. So yeah, throw it in the comments.
Yeah.
Which whiskey was your favorite? Everyone promises not to get offended.
I mean, and super different. That's the first thing. There is no right or wrong answer in this one. I mean, comparing Yeah, it's just there is no right or wrong answer to this one, but we do like it, and our guests won't be offended, but we do like it. So yeah, let us know what was your favourite. Come on, don't sit on the fence with this one. And for you guys, I've got a question for you, just a general question. If you could share a dram of whiskey with anyone, past or present, who would it be and why?
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm going left field today. I've just chosen something different and putting them on the
spot.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Good. Yeah. Melanie looks really confused. Just like I like putting them on the spot. They're used to the same thing. Anyway, Dougal, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm thinking like gut instinct, typical Scottish answer. I feel like you'd want to have a dram with Billy Connolly at some point.
Oh.
I feel like that would always you've got to do that. Would be a good one.
Yeah. And if you were to pour him something from the Douglas Lang range, what would it be? And he said, "Oh, come on, Dougal, sit down for me something to drink for tonight, and we'll talk about all our stuff."
I could be really twee and be like, I pour my dram of the King of Scots because that's how Billy is these days. So I think that'd be a good one. Maybe King of Scots 50-year-old though, like that'd be kind of where I go.
Saving something good for him.
Well, yeah, because I feel like he's a Glasgow working guy. Like I think he wouldn't need something super pretentious or anything like that.
Yeah. Fair enough. That's a good answer. Andrew, what about you?
So it's a bit more personal, I'd say. It's probably two people, just because of the whiskey connection to the family. My granddad, who was he lived in Ireland. He was an electrician. He fixed quite a lot of distilleries in Ireland. But his brother, my uncle Frankie, was the last stillman of Portellen Distillery before it closed down. So I just love to see their reaction to see myself, my brother, and my sister all in the whiskey industry, just to see like their legacies kind of passed down the generations, just to show them where we've come from and what we're doing now. So yeah, a wee bit more sort of emotional one, but yes,
that's nice. It's really sweet.
We've got quite a lot of family history with whiskey, so it's just great. I missed my mum's generation; they don't like it at all. So I jumped to generation, but yeah,
I do say that about whiskey. It tends to miss a generation when it goes.
But yeah, just with we always go back to Ireland now, and my granddad Alec and my granddad's brother Frankie were always we always think about them because they were like the heart and soul of Islay whiskey scene in Islay. You're talking maybe 50, 60 years ago. So yeah, you just think, what would they think of today's industry? What would they think about it all? And I think they'd actually probably be quite shocked at just how big it is and how crazy, especially Islay whiskies. There's fans all over the world for the smoky stuff. So, and it all comes from that wee island in Scotland. So it's kind of crazy. So yeah, that'd be my answer.
Oh, that's a really nice answer. How about you, Melanie?
Well, I've got sort of some local gossip. The King and Queen are coming shortly to Campbelltown.
Wow.
So hopefully one of them will get a chance to try some of our whiskies.
Do you know
your dream guest might come true?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it looks like it. But I can't see a date or anything.
What about you, Jess?
I don't know why. The first person I thought of was David Tennant. I just think he looks like good crack, and I think because he's Scottish.
He lives by me. He lives by me. He walked down the road the other day. I walked straight.
Really?
Yeah. In Chiswick.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I could have actually experienced your.
You go tell him.
Okay.
Go to South London. Jess has got a dram waiting.
Very good.
Who's would yours be, Andy?
Oh, where to start? Right. So
you must have had that in the mind to ask the question.
No, I didn't. I just never.
I know you do.
As soon as I asked you, and then suddenly thought, "Oh shit, I'm definitely gonna have to answer this question myself."
903. So you just passed the watershed.
Yeah. Okay. God, should have had an answer for this one, shouldn't I? I put myself on the spot. Who's been a big influence to me? I'd say I would love to, just on the talk of having good crack, I would love to sit and have a whiskey with Larry David.
I just paused. I thought, who's that? The guy from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have you never seen Curb Your Enthusiasm? Seinfeld?
Oh, I'm sorry. You've
never seen Seinfeld or Curb Your Enthusiasm? Wow.
No, I'm not cultured.
No, it's not very cultured at all. Dougal, have you seen it?
Yeah, I am familiar. But so it's not. I think it was left field answer. I think it was.
Okay, fair. I just feel like he'd be someone I'd like to sit down, and also gone. A very massive influence of mine, like just in general, is David Lynch, who recently passed away. I would love to sit and have a glass of whiskey with him and coffee. but definitely whiskey. So yeah, two left field answers there. And loads of people. Arsene Wenger. Anyone who used to play for Arsenal, something like that. But yes,
you've lost me completely.
Okay. I'm just talking about people that I like now, but these are the people I would like to have.
Not whiskey specific.
Yeah, if we're talking about whiskey specific, I would love to have a drink with Dr. Jim Swan.
Oh yeah.
But it's a safe answer in whiskey.
Yeah, just learn everything. But yeah, anyway, that was the kind of more relevant answer. Right, guys, let's.
The votes are in.
The votes are in. So, are you guys ready for this? Our guests.
I mean, I was trying to play the cute dog card, and like there's like the sneaky of like.
Like
no one wants to disappoint the cute dog.
Yeah. Don't make the cute dog cry, for God's sake. So we'll start here with where's it gone down to Real Boinker. They were all good. But I did like Springbank the most. Ali C, Springbank, then Strathearn. The SPEY is a good introductory whiskey to get people started in their whiskey appreciation. Greg Hewitt, Springbank wins for me, but all three have been lovely drams. KG, Springbank for me, but all were enjoyable. Simon, Springbank for me, but loving the Stauning too. Steve Coleman Williams, Strathearn for me, but only because of the enigma of the nose versus the palate. Is that something you've heard before, Dougal, about kind of the nose? Nose is different to how it tastes?
Yeah, I get that. Especially, it's a very big palette, and that's kind of our purpose with the kind of the way we make it. So
yeah, David T will go for the Springbank. Just SPEY and Strathearn come a very close second. Rob Couch, Crouch, Springbank for me. Jess, do you want to take over, or shall I just carry on?
Oh, I'm happy to take over. Malcolm Tucker, Springbank shouldn't be allowed in the vote.
Okay.
I enjoyed the Old Perth and the Strathearn. Peterborough, Springbank for me, without a doubt.
Okay.
Pecksmith, I'm going to controversially. That's controversial. Say Stauning for me tonight, but just a great box.
I love that Stauning. Just finished like a.
Did you?
To that, yeah. Well, not the whole thing, like half of it. Not that much left. Just that part of it. I finished it, and I got to say it's bloody great. We're past the watershed. It's bloody great. Anyway, carry on.
Hopefully, we're past the watershed because it's whiskey, but you know.
Yeah.
No kids here. Where are we? Niall, enjoyed all of them, but Springbank stands out. Alex Antonio, Strathearn might just edge it for me because it's such a small batch. Graham Scott, SPEY for me. Rob Crouch, 3 great drams. Real Boinker, Ian Rankin for me.
I think he's talking about the question. Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I don't know why I just left it there for you guys. You know, that could have been the question. You can all.
I mean, Steve Coleman Williams has thrown in Alan Turing, so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Malcolm Tucker said if only the dog had featured earlier. Sorry, Dougal.
We've also got a database. Steve Coleman Williams has a little whiskey database, and I think he counts the votes because he's saying on the database a draw between the Stauning and Springbank now.
Okay, there you go. So
interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize it was a live vote as well before we've even asked this question on the page. So there you go.
Tough competition, I have to say. Springbank 10.
Who is it? You had the box, didn't you, Andrew? We gave you the box.
I've got the box, yeah.
What was your favourite?
I have to say, I've not quite got through them all yet. I've not done the Springbank or the Stauning yet, which is obviously the two that I seem to get the big votes. But Dougal's one was super powerful. I thought it was a really big flavoured whiskey. The finish just kept on going and going. But I've tried the Old Perth before. It's actually my favourite Old Perth's, the Manzanilla cask. I think it's brilliant. It's got that kind of rubbery taste, which is not seen as in a small amount. It's quite good, but I always say it's like a rubbery taste. But it's almost like an inner tubing of a bike, but a Tour de France bike. So it's a really high quality rubber. So yeah, I like it. For me, I think the Old Perth is very quaffable for 53%. I think Old Perth, but I've not. It's not. I've not tried them all yet, but I've got a certain. So for tonight, definitely the Old Perth.
Oh, nice! I'm pleased you enjoyed that one. Melanie, have you tried any of these drams before at all?
No, I haven't actually. No. So I'm keeping them for the weekend.
Keeping them for the weekend. Okay, that sounds like a good idea. So, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure hanging with you all. Thank you to all our guests here. It's been a wonderful evening. Loads of great whiskey. We will be back in When's the next month? July at some point?
Yeah, I believe I can tell you it is the 10th of July.
The 10th of July. Fantastic. So we look forward to seeing you all there. Remember that straight away when this finishes, there's going to be one bottle limited to each person, one person of the Springbank 10. So,
but not one for every person. One for a very select few people
that get there. Okay, fine. Okay, so fingers on the pulse.
promising nothing.
Or a discount. But I've rigged it so I can buy a few bottles for myself. It's not just one. So just get there quick, basically. Right. Thank you all for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we shall see you all very soon. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.
Unbelievable.
Bye, Andy.
Good job.